Bethesda Lutheran Homes and Services Incorporated provides support and services to people with developmental disabilities. We offer resources worldwide and support programs in 5 regions east of the Rockies.
Lifting is part of almost everyone's day. Whether your job involves lifting things or lifting people, proper lifting techniques can reduce your risk of injury and the risk of injury for the people you support. In order to lift safely, there are 6 principles to keep in mind. These 6 lifting rules will help you safely lift, whether you are lifting a person or lifting an item. The first principle is to plan your lift. Take the time to evaluate what you are about to lift and determine if you can safely lift it. When you are making the decision of whether to lift something or not, consider the weight you are about to lift, as well as the size and weight distribution of the object being lifted. The object may be light enough to lift, but if it's awkward, it may require assistance. If you think you can't safely lift it, get help. Next, look at your feet. In order to lift safely, you need to have a wide base of support. This means your feet should be about shoulders width apart, with one foot slightly in front of the other. If your feet are too close together or too far apart, you're unstable and you aren't able to move safely. Now that your feet are positioned correctly, let's discuss how to use your legs when lifting. It is important that you bend your knees. You want to lift using your legs, not your back. By bending your knees, you will be using your leg muscles to lift. You're now in the correct position to begin your lift. As you begin, keep the object or person being lifted as close to your body as possible. Keep the weight close to your spine. This reduces the strain that you place on your back. Avoid reaching as you lift. This shifts the weight away from your spine and places more strain on your back muscles. As you lift, keep your back straight and let your legs do the lifting, not your back. When your back is not straight, you add the weight of your body to the lift. This added weight places you at greater risk for back injuries. The last thing to remember is that you turn, not twist when lifting. It is important that you don't twist while lifting or lift while twisting. In other words, make turns with your feet, not with your back. To avoid twisting, your feet should always be pointing in the direction you are moving during a lift. If you are going to lift people, there are some additional safety steps you need to follow. First, a person's weight is not evenly distributed. For instance, the trunk is the heaviest part of the body. This will affect how you lift the person. Also, people may move while you are lifting them and shift their weight distribution. Because of this, you may need additional assistance to lift a person. Sometimes that assistance will be another person, and sometimes it may be a mechanical lift. You also need to consider that there are many environmental hazards that must be accounted for. The space you have to work may be crowded, or there may be obstacles that need to be moved. When transferring to or from a bed, you need to consider the difference between the height of the bed and the height of the chair. These are just some of the situations you may need to evaluate before you begin a lift. Also, when you are assisting people with a lift, remember to account for their privacy. Helping someone with a transfer has the potential for that person to lose some personal dignity. Talk to the person about the transfer before you begin and encourage them to assist with it as much as possible. Ensure that they know what is going to happen. If they do not feel safe or are unsure of what you are about to do, it can make the lift more difficult and put both you and that person at risk of injury. Prior to assisting someone to move into their wheelchair, you should thoroughly check the chair for safety. This check should be done each time a person moves into their chair. Begin your inspection by looking at the wheels. Are the tires in good working condition? If they are inflatable tires, are they adequately inflated? Also, check the spokes and rims. Is anything missing or damaged? Are there sharp edges? Remember that damaged parts may cause injury to the person. There may be a number of protective tips on various parts of the chair. These tips help to protect against injuries. As you check the wheelchair, look for missing or damaged protective tips. Check the footrest also. Are they the proper ones for this chair? Are they properly adjusted? If they are removable, they may need to be removed prior to assisting with a transfer. Test the brakes prior to every transfer. They should hold the wheels in place so that they do not move and they should lock. Evaluate the overall cleanliness of the chair. It should be clean in appearance. There should not be dirt or debris present. Also check for odors. A wheelchair's appearance is part of the overall appearance of the person who uses it. If it is not clean, it does not portray a positive impression of the person. Check any other features of the chair. For instance, some people may have a seat belt or other adaptive equipment as part of their chair. If any concerns are noted during your inspection, follow your agency's specific guidelines for reporting and correcting the problem. Never use a wheelchair if there's a safety risk involved. Now that you have evaluated the wheelchair, let's look at some common safety guidelines for transferring people from one place to another. Before beginning the transfer, determine the best position and location for the wheelchair. This will be influenced by the type of transfer you are doing, as well as the person's physical condition. Generally, if a person is stronger on one side of their body, transfer in the direction of their strongest side. As you choose the position of the wheelchair, allow enough room for the lift to happen safely. If you will need to move around during the lift, you need to allow enough space to safely accommodate that movement. Once you have placed the wheelchair in the proper location, lock the brakes. This will keep the chair from rolling during the transfer. When you are transferring to or from a wheelchair, be sure brakes are locked. As you prepare for the transfer, determine if any parts of the wheelchair will interfere with the lift. Removing footrests or armrests may make the transfer safer and easier. Another important preparation involves preparing the person you are about to assist. Don't forget to explain to them what is about to happen.
And I'm going to put this gate belt on you. What I'm going to do is take you from the chair and put you over on the couch here, help you off the couch, okay?
Ask them to assist as much as possible. They should always be wearing non-slip footwear to protect them from slipping. Even if the person is not going to be standing, this should be done. Footwear also serves as a protection from potential injuries during the lift. Some transfers require 2 or more people to do them. When more than one person is involved in the transfer, it is always important that everyone involved in the lift be clear on what they're to do. Lift on a signal that is determined prior to beginning the lift. If the person being lifted is able to count with you, have them do so. It will help them to know what is about to happen and place them in more control over the situation. If the person uses a seat belt in their wheelchair, be sure to secure it as soon as the transfer is complete. Not all people have seat belts in their chairs, but when they do, you should not move away from them until the seatbelt is fastened. Once a person is transferred to the new location, check their body position and alignment. Their buttocks and back should be up against the back of the chair. For most people, this means their hips will be at a 90-degree angle to their back. If any equipment was removed from the chair during the transfer, replace it at this time. Make sure the person's feet are safely and comfortably placed on the footrests. Some people may have mechanical supports or adaptive equipment that needs to be applied at this time also. If you are unsure of how to properly apply this equipment, ask your supervisor. At this point, you may be thinking that you are done with your responsibilities for this lift, but there is one more safety precaution you should make. Ensure that the person's hands and arms are in a safe position before moving the wheelchair. If they can't move the wheelchair by themselves, their hands and arms should be in their laps so that they do not get caught or bumped when going through doorways. The safest way to go through a doorway is by backing the wheelchair through it. When you are assisting with lifts, some lifts will require the use of lifting aids or equipment. Since mechanical lifts vary in how they are used, we will not go into specifics on their use. Check specific manufacturer's instructions for the safety features and guidelines. One type of lifting aid that you may use is a gait belt. Gait belts, or as they are sometimes called, transfer belts, can be used for transferring assistance, walking assistance, or for lifting someone. They provide you with a secure place to hold while assisting the person. When using a gait belt, keep these simple rules in mind. First, gait belts always need to be applied over clothing. They should never be applied directly to bare skin. When fitting the belt around the person's waist, make sure it is snug but not uncomfortable. If the belt is too loose, it will slide up during the transfer. This is unsafe and uncomfortable. You should be able to fit your hand between the belt and the person. The belt should be at their waist. This means that it is below the person's rib cage and breasts. The last rule to remember when using a gait belt is to grip the belt from underneath with your palms up. This provides you with the best possible grip and reduces the possibility of injury. We have discussed a number of general rules for lifting and transferring. The types of lifts and transfers you will use will depend upon your home's specific policies and procedures, and also the specific needs of the people you support. It is important that you review the specific needs for your home. The following demonstrations will apply the principles we have discussed up to this point. They are just a few examples of lifts you may use. Remember, the specific lifts and transfers you use may be different from the ones you are about to see. A common type of transfer you may do is a one-person pivot transfer. The safest way to do this transfer is with a gait belt. Using a gait belt gives you a better grip and does not pull on the arms or shoulders of the person being transferred. Check your specific site procedures regarding the equipment you are to use for a one-person pivot transfer. In order to use this transfer, the person must be able to bear weight on at least 1 foot. If this can't be done, this transfer should not be used. Begin this transfer by explaining to the person what you are going to do and request their assistance with the transfer. Position and lock the wheelchair. Remove any environmental hazards, including footrests, and ensure all safety precautions have been followed before beginning the transfer. Also, make sure that the person is wearing non-slip footwear. Next, secure the gait belt around the person's waist.
Can you lean forward a little bit? Good. Does that feel okay?
Ask the person to either place their hands around your waist or use them to push up as they stand. Their hands should not be around your neck, as this may cause a back injury if the person would start to fall. Grasp the gait belt firmly in your hands. You should be holding onto the belt on both sides of the person's body. Remember to bend your knees and keep your back straight. As you count, gently rock the person forward. This will help the person gain momentum and help them more easily rise to a standing position. Stabilize the person in a standing position and then help them turn toward the place they are going to sit. Gently lower them onto the bed or chair. Ensure the comfort and safety of the person and remove the gait belt. If a person is not able to bear weight, you will need to lift the person rather than assist them to transfer. We will demonstrate 2 common types of lifts that you may use to lift a person. These lifts require at least 2 people to complete. If the person being moved has any tubes or wires attached to their body, a 3rd person may be needed to ensure that these devices don't get pulled or tangled. First, let's look at the side-by-side lift. As you would with any procedure, begin by explaining to the person exactly what you are about to do and provide the necessary privacy. Don't forget to lock the brakes of the wheelchair and check to make sure that the person is wearing shoes. Place a gait belt around the person's waist. Next, prepare the environment for the transfer. Remove all obstacles or pieces of the wheelchair that may interfere with the transfer. If footrests are removable, remove them. Determine a signal you will use to coordinate your lift. Also, decide the direction you will be moving when you have lifted the person. Place one hand under the person's leg and with the other hand grasp the gait belt. Have one person count out the lifting signal. As you lift, bend your knees, keep your back straight, and keep the person close to your body. Move in the direction you determined before starting the lift. Gently lower the person onto the surface, ensure their safety and comfort, and remove the gait belt. The last lift we will demonstrate is a top and bottom lift. Begin by explaining to the person what you are about to do and provide for their privacy. Next, prepare the environment for the lift. Remove any hazards that may interfere with the lift. This lift is easiest to do when all possible obstacles are removed from the wheelchair. This would include armrests, footrests, and any adaptive equipment. By removing the armrests, you will not have to lift the person over that obstacle. Place a wheelchair next to the bed. Establish a signal for lifting. One person is positioned behind the individual being moved and grasp the wrists. The hands are not crossed. Rather, the left hand should be holding the left wrist and the right hand should be holding the right wrist.
Kathy, are you ready? Yep. Okay, Teresa, on the count of 3, we're going to move you from your wheelchair to your bed, okay?
The second person grasps the legs of the person being moved.
1,
On the prearranged signal,
3.
lift the person and move them to the new location.
Teresa, Kathy and I are going to lift you up and over further.
Remember to follow all of your safe lifting techniques. Do not drag the person across any surfaces as you move them. Ensure the safety and comfort of the person you just assisted. These are just a few lifts and transfers you may be using. It is important for you to know and understand any specific transfers that you will be doing as part of your job. Remember, whether your job involves lifting things or lifting people, Proper lifting techniques can reduce your risk of injury and the risk of injury for the people you support.